"You're not my mother. My real mother is beautiful. You're just the old wife my father was stuck with." The words exploded across the crowded restaurant like a grenade. Every head in the upscale Victoria Island eatery turned toward the commotion. Forks paused midway to mouths. Conversations died. Even the background music seemed to fade into shocked silence. Ngozi stood frozen at the entrance of Golden Palms restaurant, her hand still on the door handle, her carefully applied makeup unable to hide the devastation spreading across her face. The boy, 16 years old, wearing designer clothes that cost more than her monthly salary, stood in the center of the dining area, his finger pointed at her like a weapon, his young face twisted with calculated cruelty. "Everyone should know the truth," the boy continued, his voice carrying to every corner of the restaurant. "This woman has been pretending to be my mother for years, but she's nobody. My real mother is Yetunde, beautiful, young, successful Yetunde, not this dried-up old woman." Laughter erupted from a nearby table. Ngozi's eyes darted toward the sound, and her heart shattered into a million pieces. Her husband Femi sat there, surrounded by his friends and family, not making a single move to stop the humiliation. Worse, he was smiling. That subtle, satisfied smile that told her everything she needed to know. This wasn't an accident. This was planned. Hello, my beautiful people. Welcome back to Voice of Auntie Dora, where we bring you the most powerful, emotional, and unforgettable stories that will have you on the edge of your seat. Thank you so much for your constant love and support. You are the heartbeat of this channel. Before we dive deep into this explosive story of betrayal and revenge, please do me a huge favor. Drop a comment below telling me where you're watching from. Are you in Atlanta, Toronto, London, Lagos? Let Auntie Dora know. Now buckle up, because this story is going to take you on a journey you will never forget. Ngozi's hands trembled as she looked at the boy. Segun, her husband's illegitimate son from his long-time affair with his secretary. The affair everyone in Lagos knew about. The affair that had produced this venomous child who now stood in a public restaurant, chosen specifically because it was where all of Femi's business associates gathered, where their social circle congregated, where maximum humiliation could be achieved. Segun, "That's enough," Ngozi managed to say, her voice barely steady. She took a step forward, trying to salvage some dignity, trying to pretend her world wasn't collapsing in front of 50 witnesses with smartphones already recording. "Enough?" Segun laughed, and it was his father's laugh, cruel and dismissive. "I'm just getting started. Do you know what my mother tells me? She says you trapped my father with an old-fashioned marriage, that you're boring and cold. That's why he comes to us, to our real family every weekend. That's why he loves us, not you." More laughter from Femi's table. Ngozi recognized them all. His younger brother Kunle, who had always resented her. His cousin Damalola, who thought she wasn't good enough for the family. His business partner Obinna, who had been encouraging him to upgrade to a younger woman for years. And seated right next to Femi wearing a smug expression of victory was Femi's mother, Mama Femi, the woman who had orchestrated this entire humiliation. Ngozi had suspected something was wrong when Femi insisted they meet at this specific restaurant for their anniversary dinner. 17 years of marriage, and he chose today to destroy her publicly. "My dear," came a venomous voice from Femi's table. Mama Femi stood up slowly, adjusting her expensive gold jewelry, her face a mask of false sympathy. "Why don't you just accept the truth? You have given my son no children in 17 years. 17 years! But Yetunde, beautiful, fertile Yetunde, she gave him a son, a strong, intelligent son. You are the visitor in this marriage, not her." The words hit Ngozi like physical blows. Infertility, her deepest wound, her greatest pain, now weaponized in front of strangers and enemies alike. She had spent 17 years enduring fertility treatments, miscarriages, and the silent judgment of a society that measured a woman's worth by her ability to produce children. And now, that pain was being used as entertainment. "So please," Mama Femi continued, her voice dripping with false kindness, Stop embarrassing yourself. Stop clinging to a man who has clearly moved on. Yetunde is younger, prettier, and most importantly, she has given us what you never could, a grandson, an heir. Segun walked closer to Ngozi, his teenage arrogance emboldened by the laughter and support around him. He was tall for 16, almost as tall as his father, with the same dark brown skin and sharp features. And right now, those features were arranged in an expression of pure contempt. "My father told me to tell you something," Segun said quietly, just loud enough for the nearby tables to hear, but maintaining the illusion of a private conversation. "He said you should move out of the house by next week. We're moving in. My mother and me. The real family. He said you can take whatever fits in one suitcase, everything else stays with us." Ngozi felt the floor tilt beneath her feet. This wasn't just public humiliation. This was eviction, replacement, erasure. She looked at Femi again, silently begging him to say this was a joke, a misunderstanding, anything but the truth. But Femi just raised his glass of champagne in a mock toast, that same satisfied smile on his face. "To new beginnings," he said loudly, and his entire table raised their glasses in response. "To new beginnings," they chorused, laughing. New beginnings, as if 17 years of marriage, of sacrifice, of standing by him when his business nearly collapsed, of caring for his sick mother, the same woman now mocking her, of enduring the whispers and pity about her childlessness, as if all of that meant nothing, as if she was disposable, replaceable, worthless. Tears burned behind Ngozi's eyes, but she refused to let them fall. Not here. Not in front of these people who were feeding on her pain like vultures. "I see," she said quietly, her voice steadier than she felt. "So this is how 17 years ends? With a child delivering eviction notices in a public restaurant?" "Oh, don't be so dramatic," Femi finally spoke directly to her, his voice bored and dismissive. "You'll be fine. I'll give you some money to rent a small flat somewhere. Consider it a thank you for your service over the years." Service. He called their marriage service, as if she had been an employee instead of a wife. The restaurant was completely silent now, everyone watching this domestic drama unfold with the fascinated horror of people witnessing a car crash. Phones were definitely recording. By tomorrow, this would be all over Lagos social media. The barren wife publicly replaced by the fertile mistress. A cautionary tale, a source of gossip and judgment. "You know what's funny?" Ngozi said, her voice suddenly calm in a way that made Segun take a step back. "You all think you've won. You think this humiliation, this public execution of my dignity, is your victory." She looked around the room, at every smirking face, every pitying expression, every phone recording her downfall. "But what you don't know, what none of you know, is who I really am, what I'm really capable of. You see, for 17 years I played the role of the submissive wife, the patient woman, the one who accepted disrespect because I loved my husband and respected his family." Ngozi took a step toward Femi's table, her posture changing from defeated to something else entirely, something dangerous. "But that woman?" She smiled, and it was a smile that made Mama Femi's triumphant expression falter slightly. "She just died. You killed her, right here, in front of all these people, and what's rising in her place is someone you're going to wish you had never met." "Are you threatening us?" Kunle laughed nervously. "What are you going to do? You have no money, no power, no family support. You're nothing without Femi." "Nothing?" Ngozi repeated softly. "You really believe that, don't you? You believe the lie you told yourselves, that I'm just the helpless wife who needs you to survive." She turned to leave, then paused at the door, looking back one final time. "Segun," she said, addressing the boy directly, "you're 16 years old, young, arrogant, and stupid, so I'll forgive you for what you said today. But your father, your grandmother, your mother Yetunde, who I know is listening to all of this on speakerphone right now?" Femi's hand jerked, almost dropping his phone. So she was right. Yetunde was on the call, listening to her humiliation remotely. "You will regret this day," Ngozi said simply. "Not because I'm going to scream or cry or beg, but because you just made a mistake that will cost you everything. And unlike you, when I destroy someone, I do it quietly, legally, and so completely that they don't even see it coming until it's too late." She walked out of the restaurant with her head high, ignoring the whispers and laughter that followed her. She made it to her car, got inside, locked the doors, and only then did she let herself break down. But even as tears streamed down her face, even as her body shook with sobs, a part of her mind was already working, planning, calculating. Because what Femi and his family didn't know, what nobody in that restaurant knew, was that Ngozi wasn't just a housewife. Before her marriage, she had been Ngozi Okafor, one of the top financial analysts at Lagos's largest investment firm. She had walked away from that career to support Femi's business ambitions, to be the wife his mother demanded, to try desperately to become a mother herself. But she never forgot her skills. She never stopped watching, analyzing, understanding the financial moves Femi made. And over 17 years, she had noticed things, irregularities, hidden accounts, business deals that didn't quite add up. She had stayed silent because she loved him, because she believed in their marriage, because she hoped things would get better. But that hope died tonight in Golden Palms restaurant. Now there was only rage, cold, calculating rage, and the knowledge that she had enough information to destroy not just Femi's business, but his entire family's financial future. They wanted to replace her? Fine. But first, she was going to burn their world to the ground. What would you do if your husband's mistress's son humiliated you in public? Would you walk away or fight back? Hit that like button if you're ready to see Ngozi's revenge. Don't forget to subscribe to Voice of Auntie Dora and turn on notifications. Coming chapter is going to reveal secrets that will blow your mind. Drop a comment. Are you Team Ngozi? Let me hear you. Ngozi drove through the Lagos night with no destination in mind, her hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly her knuckles turned pale. The city lights blurred through her tears, but she kept driving, needing the motion, the distance, the illusion of escape from what had just happened. Her phone rang constantly. Unknown numbers, probably people from the restaurant calling to offer false sympathy or real gossip. She ignored them all. Then Femi's name flashed on the screen. She almost threw the phone out the window, but something stopped her. Instead, she answered on speaker. "What do you want?" "Ngozi, don't be dramatic about this," Femi's voice came through, irritated rather than apologetic. "It was just a dinner. Segun is young, he got carried away. You're making this bigger than it needs to be." Ngozi laughed, a sound with no humor in it. "Just a dinner? Your son publicly disowned me while you and your family laughed. Your mother announced I'm being replaced. You told me to pack one suitcase and leave my own home. Which part am I making bigger than it needs to be, Femi?" Look, I was going to tell you about the living arrangements in a more private way, but Segun jumped ahead. The point is the same. Yetunde and Segun are moving into the main house. It's time. He needs his father full-time, and you need to accept reality. We've been living a lie for years. A lie? Ngozi's voice was dangerously quiet. Is that what our 17 years of marriage is to you? Be honest, Ngozi. You know this marriage has been dead for a long time, ever since it became clear you couldn't give me children. My mother was right. I should have divorced you years ago. But I felt sorry for you. I let you stay, gave you status, kept you comfortable. But that's over now. Yetunde has proven herself. She's given me a son, and she's carrying our second child. The words hit Ngozi like a physical blow. Pregnant. Yetunde was pregnant again, while Ngozi had suffered through 3 miscarriages and countless failed fertility treatments. So that's it? Ngozi said softly. 17 years, and I'm dismissed like a house girl who didn't perform well enough? Don't make me the villain here, Femi snapped. You knew what you were getting into when you married me. You knew my mother expected grandchildren. You knew Nigerian society judges a woman by her fertility. I gave you 17 years to deliver. You failed. Now I'm moving on with someone who can actually fulfill the basic requirement of being a wife." Ngozi ended the call without another word. She pulled over to the side of the road, her entire body shaking with rage, so intense it felt like fire in her veins. Failed. He called her a failure. She hadn't failed. Her body had betrayed her, yes, but she had been a good wife, an excellent wife. She had managed his household, entertained his business associates, maintained relationships with his difficult family, and most importantly, she had been the one who saved his business when it nearly collapsed 5 years ago. That memory stopped her tears immediately. Her mind suddenly crystal clear. 5 years ago, Femi's import-export company had been hemorrhaging money. Bad deals, corrupt partners, and his own financial mismanagement had brought them to the edge of bankruptcy. Ngozi had been the one to sit down with the books, to analyze every transaction, to identify where the leaks were. She had used her old contacts from her financial analyst days to restructure their debts, to negotiate better terms with creditors, to essentially save everything Femi had built. And she had done it quietly, without taking credit, because that's what a supportive wife did. But in doing so, she had also made sure her name was on certain documents. Not for control, at least not then, but for legal protection. She had insisted that as his wife, she needed to be a co-signatory on the business accounts, that she needed access to the financial records in case something happened to him. Femi had agreed, grateful for her help, not thinking about what it meant long term. It meant that right now, at this very moment, Ngozi had legal access to every business account, every contract, every financial detail of Femi's empire. The empire she had helped rebuild, the empire he was planning to share with Yetunde instead of her. Ngozi picked up her phone and made a call. It rang 3 times before a familiar voice answered. "Ngozi, is that you? My God, it's been years." "Hello, BC," Ngozi said, her voice steady now. "I need your help. And I need you to be discreet." BC Oladele had been Ngozi's closest friend from her days at the investment firm. She had risen through the ranks to become a senior partner at one of Lagos's most prestigious law firms, specializing in corporate and family law. They had lost touch after Ngozi's marriage. Femi had systematically isolated her from her old professional contacts. But Ngozi had kept track of her friend's success from a distance. "Anything," BC said immediately. "Where are you? What's wrong?" Ngozi told her everything. The restaurant humiliation, the eviction notice delivered by a teenage boy, Femi's phone call confirming the betrayal, Yetunde's pregnancy. She spoke clinically, emotionally detached now, as if she were reporting on someone else's life. When she finished, there was a long silence on the other end. "That bastard," BC finally said, her voice shaking with fury. "That absolute bastard. After everything you did for him, after you literally saved his business from collapse?" "I need to know something," Ngozi said. "Legally, what are my rights? To the house, to the business, to everything we built together?" "Oh, Ngozi," BC's voice suddenly changed, taking on the sharp professional tone of a lawyer who had just spotted blood in the water. "You need to come to my office first thing tomorrow morning. Don't pack anything from that house yet. Don't sign anything. Don't agree to anything. And most importantly, tell me you still have access to the business accounts." "I do. I'm still listed as a co-signatory. Femi never removed me because he trusted I would never use it against him," BC finished. "Well, he was wrong. Ngozi, listen to me very carefully. Under Nigerian matrimonial law, any assets acquired during the marriage are considered joint property unless there's a prenuptial agreement clearly stating otherwise. Did you sign a prenup?" Ngozi's heart started beating faster. "No, Femi said it was unnecessary. He said it would be an insult to our love." "Perfect," BC said, and there was savage satisfaction in her voice. "Then technically you own half of everything. The house, the business, the investments, everything. And if you're still on those business accounts, that means you have the legal right to freeze them, to lock him out until the courts determine proper asset division in a divorce." I can do that? Not only can you do that, you absolutely should do that. Tomorrow morning, before he has a chance to move money around or remove your access, we'll file for divorce, file for an injunction freezing all marital assets, and hit him with a lawsuit that will make him regret the day he decided to humiliate you." Ngozi felt something unfamiliar stirring in her chest. It took her a moment to recognize it. Hope. Not the desperate hope of a woman trying to save her marriage, but the cold, calculated hope of someone about to win a war. "There's something else," Ngozi said slowly. "When I was helping him restructure the business 5 years ago, I noticed some irregularities. Money moving through shell companies, payments to offshore accounts that didn't match any legitimate business expenses. I documented everything because I thought he might be getting scammed by his partners. But now I think Femi might have been evading taxes." The silence on the other end was profound. "Ngozi," Bisi said very carefully, "are you telling me you have evidence of tax evasion?" "I have spreadsheets, transaction records, emails where he discusses creative accounting with his business partner Obinna. I kept copies of everything on a secure cloud storage account. I thought I was protecting him, gathering evidence in case his partners tried to frame him for their crimes. But if he was actually the one orchestrating it, then you're not just holding a divorce case," Bisi said, her voice filled with awe and something like fear. "You're holding a federal criminal case. Tax evasion in Nigeria can result in prison time, massive fines, and complete seizure of assets. Ngozi, if what you're saying is true, you don't just have the power to divorce Femi, you have the power to destroy him completely." Ngozi sat in her car, the Lagos night pressing in around her, and felt the final pieces of her old self crumble away. The woman who had walked into Golden Palms restaurant expecting an anniversary dinner was gone. The woman who had spent 17 years being patient, understanding, and forgiving was dead. In her place was someone new. Someone who had been humiliated in front of 50 witnesses, dismissed by a teenage boy, and called a failure by a man she had saved from financial ruin. Someone who was about to remind everyone exactly who they had been foolish enough to underestimate. "Bisi," Ngozi said quietly, "how quickly can you prepare the paperwork?" "For the divorce and asset freeze? I can have it ready by 9 a.m. tomorrow." "And for reporting the tax evasion?" Bisi paused. That's nuclear, Ngozi. "Once you report that to the Federal Inland Revenue Service, there's no taking it back. They'll investigate, and if they find what you say they'll find, Femi will go to prison. His business will be destroyed. His family will lose everything. Are you absolutely sure you want to go that far?" Ngozi thought about Segun's cruel young face calling her worthless. She thought about Mama Femi's smug satisfaction announcing her replacement. She thought about Femi's table raising glasses in a toast to new beginnings, while she stood there being erased from her own life. She thought about 17 years of sacrifice, 3 miscarriages, countless fertility treatments, the nights she had cried alone while Femi was with his mistress, and the moment she had worked herself to exhaustion saving his business, only to be rewarded with public humiliation and eviction. "Yes," she said simply, "I'm sure. Prepare everything. The divorce, the asset freeze, and the criminal complaint. I want him to wake up tomorrow morning and find out his entire world has disappeared overnight." "Ngozi, they wanted to destroy me publicly," Ngozi continued, her voice cold and steady. "They wanted to humiliate me in front of everyone, to make me a cautionary tale, to erase me like I never mattered. So I'm going to show them what real destruction looks like. I'm going to take everything, his money, his business, his freedom, his future, and I'm going to do it legally, systematically, so thoroughly that when I'm done, Femi and his precious Yetunde will wish they had treated me with respect." "All right," Bisi said softly. "Then come to my office at 7 a.m. We have a lot of work to do. And Ngozi, don't go back to that house tonight. Stay somewhere safe. Once we file these papers, Femi is going to realize what's happening, and desperate men do stupid things." I'll get a hotel room. Good. Text me which one. I'll have security meet you there. And Ngozi, I'm proud of you. That bastard deserves everything that's coming to him. After hanging up, Ngozi sat in her car for a few more minutes, letting the reality of what she was about to do sink in. This wasn't just divorce. This was total warfare. By this time tomorrow, Femi would be locked out of his own business accounts. By next week, federal investigators would be seizing his records. By next month, he might be in handcuffs. And Yetunde, the beautiful young mistress carrying his second child? She was about to discover that the rich man who had promised her a luxury lifestyle was actually a criminal whose assets were being frozen and whose future included a prison cell. Ngozi started her car and drove toward the Echo Hotel in Victoria Island. As she drove, she caught sight of her reflection in the rearview mirror. Her makeup was ruined from crying, her carefully styled hair disheveled. She looked like exactly what Femi's family thought she was, a broken, defeated woman. But appearances, as they were all about to learn, could be deceiving. By the time she checked into her hotel suite and lay down on the impossibly soft bed, exhaustion hit her like a wave. But even as sleep pulled her under, her last conscious thought was of Segun's face tomorrow when he realized the old wife he had mocked was the one person who could destroy his entire future. They had laughed at her tonight. Tomorrow, she would make sure they never laughed again. Ngozi woke up at 5:30 a.m., not because of an alarm, but because her body refused to let her sleep any longer. For a moment, she forgot where she was. The luxury hotel suite with its pristine white linens and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Victoria Island felt surreal after last night's nightmare. Then memory crashed back. The restaurant, Segun's cruelty, Femi's betrayal, and her decision to burn their world to ashes. She showered methodically, the hot water washing away the remnants of yesterday's humiliation. When she stepped out and looked at herself in the mirror, she saw something different. Her face was the same, 42 years old, smooth medium-brown skin, intelligent eyes that had seen too much pain. But something in her expression had changed. The softness was gone, replaced by something harder, something dangerous. She dressed carefully in a navy blue pantsuit she had brought from the car, professional, powerful, the uniform of the financial analyst she used to be before Femi convinced her to give it all up. Her natural hair was styled in a neat bun. Her makeup was flawless, hiding any evidence of last night's tears. She looked at her reflection one final time and barely recognized herself. Good. The woman who could be humiliated in public was gone. The woman staring back at her was someone else entirely. At 6:45 a.m., Ngozi arrived at BC's law firm in Ikoyi. The building was modern glass and steel, projecting exactly the kind of power and authority Ngozi needed right now. BC was already there, despite the early hour, sitting in her corner office surrounded by documents and empty coffee cups. "You look like you didn't sleep at all," Ngozi observed. "I didn't," BC admitted, gesturing to the mountain of paperwork on her desk. "But I got everything ready. Ngozi, sit down. We need to go through all of this before we file." For the next hour, BC walked Ngozi through the legal arsenal she had prepared overnight. The divorce petition, citing adultery, emotional cruelty, and abandonment. The emergency injunction to freeze all marital assets. The motion to prevent Femi from selling, transferring, or hiding any property or funds. And finally, the thick folder containing Ngozi's documented evidence of tax evasion, ready to be submitted to the Federal Inland Revenue Service. "Once we file these documents, everything happens fast," BC explained. "The court will issue a temporary order freezing the accounts, probably by noon today. Femi will be served with the divorce papers by this afternoon. And the first complaint, that will take a few days to process, but once they start investigating, they move like a hurricane." "Will he know it was me who reported him?" Ngozi asked. "Eventually, yes. The documents will show you as the complainant, but by the time he figures that out, he'll be too busy dealing with federal investigators to retaliate." "Ngozi, are you absolutely certain about this?" "The tax evasion charge, if proven, could send him to prison for up to 7 years. Ngozi thought about Segun's voice echoing through that restaurant. "You're not my mother. You're just the old wife my father was stuck with." She thought about the laughter, the phones recording her humiliation, Femi's satisfied smile as he destroyed 17 years of marriage over champagne and applause. "I'm certain," she said. "File everything." By 9:30 a.m., BC had submitted all the documents electronically to the Lagos State High Court. By 10:15 a.m., a judge had reviewed the emergency injunction request and granted a temporary freeze on all accounts associated with Femi Williams and his business, pending a full hearing. "It's done," BC said, hanging up her phone after speaking with the court clerk. "As of right now, Femi can't access any of his business accounts, the joint savings accounts, or even the credit cards attached to those accounts. Everything is frozen until the court determines proper asset division." Ngozi felt her heart racing. How long until he finds out? Probably within the hour, as soon as he tries to make any kind of transaction, or when the court process server arrives at his office to deliver the divorce papers. Ngozi checked her watch. 10:30 a.m. Right now, Femi was probably at his office in Lekki, planning his future with Yetunde, completely unaware that his entire financial empire had just been pulled out from under him. "There's something else you should know," BC said carefully. "I did some checking this morning. The house you've been living in? The one Femi told you to leave? It was purchased 12 years ago, long before the business started making serious money, which means it's definitely marital property. He has no legal right to evict you from it." "But he said—" "He lied, or more accurately, he hoped you wouldn't know your rights. Ngozi, that house is as much yours as it is his. More so, actually, since you've been the one maintaining it, managing it, living in it full-time while he was with his mistress. Any judge will see that." A slow smile spread across Ngozi's face. "So when Segun and Yetunde try to move in, they'll be the ones trespassing, not you." BC returned the smile. "I've already prepared a restraining order preventing them from entering the property. We can file it this afternoon." "Do it," Ngozi said. "I want Yetunde to show up at my door with her suitcases and find out she has nowhere to go." BC's phone rang. She glanced at the screen and her eyebrows shot up. "It's the court process server. That was fast," she answered. "Yes? Already? And how did he react?" She listened, her smile growing wider. "Perfect. Thank you." "What happened?" Ngozi asked as soon as BC hung up. "The process server just delivered the divorce papers to Femi at his office. Apparently, he was in a meeting with potential investors when it happened. He read the first page, went completely pale, and then tried to call his bank. That's when he discovered his accounts were frozen. The process server said he started shouting, demanding to know who authorized the freeze. Then his business partner Obinna got a call. His accounts are frozen too, since they're joint signatories on the business accounts." "What did Femi do?" "He grabbed his car keys and left the office at a run. Didn't even excuse himself from the meeting with the investors, just abandoned them there." BC laughed. "Those investors are going to be very suspicious about putting money into a company whose owner just fled his own office after being served with legal papers." Ngozi's phone started ringing. Femi's name flashed on the screen. She looked at BC, who nodded. "Answer it, but put it on speaker so I can hear. Don't tell him where you are." Ngozi answered. "Hello, Femi." "What the hell did you do?" Femi's voice exploded through the speaker, raw with panic and rage. "My accounts are frozen. All of them. The court says you filed some kind of emergency injunction. You can't do this." "Actually, I can," Ngozi said calmly. "And I did. You wanted a divorce, Femi, so I'm giving you one, along with a proper accounting of our marital assets." "Marital assets? That's my money, my business. You have no right." "I have every right. We've been married for 17 years. Under Nigerian law, everything we accumulated during that marriage belongs to both of us. Or did you forget that when you were planning to move your mistress into my house?" "Your house? Are you insane? That's my house. I paid for it." "With money earned during our marriage, which makes it marital property. I've also filed a restraining order preventing Yetunde and Segun from entering the premises. So whatever plans you had for them to move in, cancel them." There was a strangled sound on the other end of the line, like Femi was choking. You're going to regret this, Ngozi. You don't know what you're doing. That business is complex. If you freeze the accounts, deals will fall through. Shipments will be delayed. I'll lose millions. Then I suggest you get a very good lawyer and come to the negotiating table with a fair settlement offer, Ngozi said, because until we reach an agreement, those accounts stay frozen. And Femi, the longer this takes, the more damage it does to your precious business. You vindictive! Femi's voice cracked with rage. This is because of last night? Because of what Segun said? He's just a boy. He didn't mean it. Oh, I think he meant every word. Just like you meant it when you told me to pack one suitcase and leave. Just like your mother meant it when she called me a visitor in my own marriage. Just like you meant it when you raised a toast to new beginnings while I stood there being erased from my own life. Ngozi, please. Femi's tone shifted suddenly to pleading. We can work this out. Don't do this. Think about what people will say. Think about the scandal. The scandal? Ngozi laughed, and it was a sound that made even Bisi flinch. You humiliated me in a crowded restaurant in front of 50 witnesses with cameras. That scandal is already done. This is just me protecting what's legally mine. I'll fight you, Femi threatened, his voice hardening again. I'll drag this through court for years. You'll get nothing. Then we'll both get nothing, Ngozi said simply. But at least I'll have the satisfaction of knowing that Yetund won't get the luxury lifestyle you promised her. Have fun explaining to your pregnant mistress why she can't move into a mansion because your accounts are frozen. She ended the call before he could respond. Bisi was staring at her with something like awe. That was perfect. Cold, factual, and you didn't let him manipulate you emotionally. He's panicking now, which means he'll make mistakes. What kind of mistakes? He'll try to move money through unofficial channels. He'll try to hide assets. He'll probably try to intimidate you into dropping the case, all of which will look terrible when we go before a judge. Every illegal thing he does now just strengthens your case. Ngozi's phone buzzed with a text message, then another, then 5 more in rapid succession. She glanced at the screen. Mama Femi, you wicked woman, how dare you freeze my son's accounts? We will destroy you for this. Kunle, you will pay for this betrayal, Ngozi. We know people. We will make your life hell. Yetunde, you think you've won? You're just a bitter old woman who can't accept that you've been replaced. Femi will fix this and we'll still be moving into that house. Enjoy your little victory while it lasts. Segun, my father says you're crazy and you'll be sorry. You're going to lose everything for being stupid. Damalola, this is beneath you, Ngozi. Be reasonable. Nobody wins when these things get ugly. Ngozi showed the messages to Bisi, who read them with growing anger. Save all of these, Bisi instructed. Screenshot them, back them up. These are threats and harassment. We can use them to get additional restraining orders and possibly criminal charges for intimidation. They really think I'm going to back down, Ngozi said wonderingly. After everything they did, they still think I'm the same woman who would accept their abuse quietly. They're about to learn differently, Bisi promised. Now, about the tax evasion evidence, I need you to walk me through exactly what you found and where you found it, because once we submit this to FIRS, they're going to want every detail documented. For the next 2 hours, Ngozi went through her records with Bisi, spreadsheets showing money being funneled through shell companies registered in the names of Femi's relatives who had never worked for the business, invoices for goods that were never shipped, payments to offshore accounts in Ghana and Benin that corresponded with cash withdrawals from the business accounts, email chains where Femi and Obina discussed creative solutions to reduce their tax burden. It was all there. Years of systematic tax fraud, adding up to millions of naira in unpaid taxes. This is airtight, Bisi said finally, her voice filled with professional satisfaction. With this evidence, FIRS will have no choice but to prosecute. Ngozi, do you understand what this means? This isn't just about divorce anymore. Femi could go to prison. His business will be seized. Everything he's built will be destroyed. Good, Ngozi said simply. Let it burn. He destroyed me in public without hesitation. Now he'll understand what that feels like. All right then. BC picked up her phone. I'm calling my contact at first. By tomorrow morning, they'll have this file. By tomorrow afternoon, Femi Williams will have federal investigators showing up at his office with warrants. As BC made the call, Ngozi stood and walked to the window, looking out at Lagos stretching below her. Somewhere in this city, Femi was panicking. Somewhere, Yetunde was learning that her wealthy lover was suddenly broke. Somewhere, Mama Femi was realizing that the woman she had dismissed as worthless was actually the most dangerous person in their lives. And somewhere, young Segun was about to learn that words have consequences, and sometimes those consequences destroy your entire future. Ngozi's phone rang again. This time it was an unknown number. She answered. Mrs. Williams? This is Detective Bayo from the Lagos State Police. I'm calling about the harassment complaint your lawyer filed this morning regarding threatening text messages. We'd like you to come in and make a formal statement. BC had already filed a harassment complaint. Of course she had, because BC was thorough, and she understood that in a war like this, you attacked from every angle at once. I'll be there this afternoon, Ngozi confirmed. When she hung up, BC was smiling that dangerous smile again. The first investigation will begin tomorrow morning, she announced. They're very interested in your evidence, very interested indeed. Ngozi felt something settle in her chest, a cold, hard certainty that she was doing the right thing. Then it's really done, she said quietly. There's no going back now. No, BC agreed. There's not. Are you ready for what comes next? Because Femi is going to fight back. He's going to try everything. Intimidation, manipulation, maybe even violence. You need to be prepared. Ngozi thought about 17 years of being prepared. Prepared to accept disappointment. Prepared to endure humiliation. Prepared to forgive betrayal. Prepared to be less than she was, so that Femi could feel like more. She was done being that kind of prepared. Let him come, she said. I'm not hiding anymore. I'm not backing down. And I'm certainly not going to let him intimidate me after what he's already done. Whatever happens next, I'll face it. Because for the first time in 17 years, I'm fighting for myself instead of fighting to save a marriage that was already dead. BC reached across the desk and squeezed her hand. Then let's show them what happens when they underestimate a woman who has nothing left to lose and everything to gain. Can you believe Femi's empire is crumbling in just 24 hours? What do you think Yetunde will do when she realizes her rich man is broke? Smash that like button if you're cheering for Ngozi's revenge. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications because this story is about to get even more explosive. Drop a comment below. Should Ngozi show mercy or take everything? Team Ngozi all the way? Let me hear you. By late afternoon, the news of Femi Williams's frozen accounts had spread through Lagos business circles like wildfire. In a city where reputation was everything and business deals were built on perceived wealth and stability, the sudden freeze of a major import-export company's accounts sent shockwaves through the community. Ngozi knew this because her phone wouldn't stop buzzing with messages from people she hadn't spoken to in years. Old colleagues from her analyst days, distant relatives, even former friends who had abandoned her when she became just a housewife. Everyone wanted to know what was happening. Everyone wanted the gossip. She ignored them all except for one message that came through at 3 p.m. It was from Omotola, one of her old university roommates, who now ran a successful media consulting firm in Lagos. They had stayed in loose contact over the years, through occasional likes on social media posts. Ngozi, I just heard what happened at Golden Palms last night. Someone sent me a video. I'm so sorry. But I'm also hearing your husband's business accounts got frozen this morning. Girl, did you do that? Call me. Now. Ngozi stared at the message for a long moment, then made a decision. She called. Oh my God, you actually called! Omotola answered immediately. Ngozi, please tell me the rumors are true. Please tell me you're the one who froze that bastard's accounts. I did, Ngozi confirmed simply. Omotola let out a whoop of joy so loud that Ngozi had to hold the phone away from her ear. Yes! Oh God, yes! Ngozi, do you know that video from last night has been circulating all over Lagos? I've seen it in at least 5 different WhatsApp groups. That horrible boy calling you names, your husband just sitting there letting it happen. Everyone was talking about how humiliating it must have been for you. It was humiliating, Ngozi said quietly. But now? Omatola's voice was filled with savage glee. Now everyone is talking about how Femi Williams showed up at his bank this morning demanding to know why his accounts were frozen, and they had to call security to remove him when he started shouting. They're saying his business partner Obina is trying to find lawyers to unfreeze the accounts, but nobody will take the case because the court order is so airtight. Ngozi, you're not the victim anymore. You're the warrior everyone is afraid of. I don't want to be feared, Ngozi said. I just want justice. Well, you're getting it. And can I say something as your friend? It's about damn time. I've watched you shrink yourself for 17 years to fit into that family. I've watched you accept disrespect and infidelity and cruelty because you thought being a good wife meant suffering in silence. Seeing you fight back, Ngozi, it's beautiful. Tears pricked at Ngozi's eyes, but this time they weren't tears of pain. They were tears of being seen, being understood, being supported. Thank you, she whispered. Now, let's talk strategy, Omatola said, her tone shifting to professional, because you know that video is out there and public opinion matters. Right now, people are split. Some are saying you're a vengeful woman who overreacted. Others are saying Femi deserved everything he got. We need to control the narrative. How? Let me release a statement on your behalf. Nothing detailed, just enough to let people know that you're not the villain here. Something like, after 17 years of dedication to my marriage and sacrifice for my husband's success, I was publicly humiliated and informed I was being replaced. I'm simply exercising my legal rights to protect myself and ensure fair division of marital assets. Clean, dignified, factual. Ngozi considered it. Won't that make things worse? It'll make things clearer. Right now, Femi and his family are probably spreading their own version of events, making you look like the crazy, vindictive wife. We need to get ahead of that. Trust me, I do crisis management for a living. This is what I'm good at. All right, Ngozi agreed. Do it. After hanging up with Omatola, Ngozi checked the time. 3:30 p.m. BC had sent her back to the hotel after filing the police report, insisting she needed rest before tomorrow's activities. Tomorrow, the first investigation would begin. Tomorrow, Femi's world would collapse even further. But today wasn't over yet. At 4 p.m., her phone rang with a call from an unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Hello? Mrs. Williams, this is Yetunde. The voice was young, feminine, and trying very hard to sound confident despite the tremor underneath. I think we need to talk, woman to woman. Ngozi almost laughed. Woman to woman? This was the mistress who had been sleeping with her husband for 7 years, who had given him a child and was pregnant with another, who had been listening on speakerphone while Ngozi was humiliated in that restaurant. What could we possibly have to talk about, Yetunde? Look, I know you're angry. I understand, but this has gone too far. Femi's business is suffering because of what you did. His reputation is being destroyed. Segun is crying because he heard his father might go to prison. You've made your point. Can't we all just settle this like adults? Settle this like adults? Ngozi repeated slowly. Is that what you call having your teenage son publicly disown me while you listened on the phone? Is that what you call stealing another woman's husband and then demanding she vacate her own home so you can move in? I didn't steal anything, Yetunde protested. Femi came to me. He said his marriage was dead, that you couldn't give him what he needed. I didn't force him to love me. No, you just accepted expensive gifts, apartments, cars, and trips funded by a business that I helped save, Ngozi said coldly. Tell me, Yetunde, did Femi ever mention that 5 years ago, when his company was about to collapse, it was me who restructured the entire financial operation? That it was my expertise that saved everything? That without me, there would be no business for him to shower you with gifts from? Silence on the other end. I didn't think so, Ngozi continued. He probably told you I was just a housewife who contributed nothing. that I was lucky to have him, that you were doing him a favor by being young and fertile and exciting." "This isn't about who contributed what," Yetunde said, her voice hardening. "This is about you being vindictive and cruel. You're destroying an entire family, Segun's father, our future, everything, because you're bitter about getting old and being replaced." "Old," Ngozi repeated softly. "I'm 42, Yetunde. And you're what, 27, 28? Let me tell you what's going to happen to you. Right now you think you've won. You think you're the prize, the upgrade, the woman who succeeded where I failed. But you're not his wife, you're his mistress, and mistresses don't get legal protections. We're getting married as soon as the divorce is finalized," Yetunde shot back. "With what money? His accounts are frozen. His business is under investigation. By the time this divorce is settled and he pays me what I'm legally owed, Femi is going to be lucky if he has enough left to rent a one-bedroom apartment, let alone support a wife and 2 children. You're lying. Femi has millions, had millions," Ngozi corrected, past tense, "and even if he manages to save some of it from the divorce settlement. Do you know what's coming next? A federal tax evasion investigation, which means potential prison time and complete seizure of assets. So that future you're planning with Femi? That mansion, that luxury lifestyle, those expensive schools for Segun? They're fantasies, and you're about to wake up." "You reported him for tax evasion?" Yetunde's voice rose with genuine fear now. "You would actually send your own husband to prison?" "He's not my husband anymore. He made that very clear last night when he let your son humiliate me in public and then told me to leave my own home. And yes, Yetunde, I reported him, because unlike you, I don't look the other way when someone breaks the law just because they're paying my bills." "You're insane," Yetunde whispered. "This is crazy. You're going to destroy him completely." "No," Ngozi said. "I'm going to let him face the consequences of his own actions. There's a difference. Now, was there anything else you wanted to discuss woman to woman, or are we done here?" "Femi was right about you," Yetunde said viciously. "You are cold, bitter. No wonder he came to me. At least I know how to make a man happy instead of punishing him for every little thing." "Every little thing?" Ngozi's voice dropped to something dangerous. "He committed adultery for 7 years. He humiliated me publicly. He tried to steal my home. And he evaded taxes, which is a federal crime. Those aren't little things, Yetunde. Those are betrayals and crimes, and the fact that you think they are little things tells me everything I need to know about your character." She hung up before Yetunde could respond. Her hands were shaking, but not from fear or sadness, from rage, pure, cold rage at the audacity of the mistress calling to ask her to back down, to be reasonable, to accept her own destruction quietly. At 6 p.m., Ngozi's phone rang again. This time it was Bisi. "You need to see this," Bisi said without preamble. "Check your email. Omatola sent over the statement she released to the media. It's already getting picked up by several blogs and news sites." Ngozi opened her email and read Omatola's statement. It was perfect, dignified, factual, and devastating in its simplicity. It painted a clear picture: loyal wife of 17 years, publicly humiliated by husband's illegitimate son, exercising legal rights to protect herself during divorce proceedings. "It's trending on Twitter," Bisi continued. "The hashtag is #JusticeForNgozi. Public opinion is swinging heavily in your favor. People are sharing their own stories of being mistreated in marriages, of being replaced by younger women, of having their contributions dismissed. You've become a symbol, Ngozi." "I don't want to be a symbol," Ngozi said quietly. "I just want my life back." "You'll get it. But in the meantime, this public support actually helps our case. It puts pressure on Femi to settle reasonably, and it makes it harder for him to paint you as the villain. Plus, I just got word that 2 of his major business clients have already canceled contracts because they don't want to be associated with the scandal. His business is collapsing," Ngozi said, and she felt a twinge of something that might have been guilt. "His business is collapsing because he built it on illegal activity and funded his lifestyle with money that should have gone to taxes," Bisi corrected firmly. "None of this is your fault, Ngozi. You didn't force him to cheat. You didn't force him to evade taxes. You didn't force him to humiliate you in public. You're just refusing to suffer the consequences of his choices alongside him." Ngozi knew BC was right. But 17 years of conditioning, of being told she needed to support her husband no matter what, of being taught that a good wife protects her husband's reputation even when he destroys hers, was hard to shake off completely. "There's one more thing," BC said, her tone shifting to something more serious. "I got a call from Femi's lawyer about an hour ago. They want to negotiate." "Negotiate what?" "A settlement. They're offering you the house, 500,000 naira in immediate cash, and a monthly payment of 200,000 naira for the next 5 years. Ngozi did the mental math. The house was worth at least 20 million naira. The business was worth hundreds of millions. 500,000 naira plus 60 months of 200,000 naira was only 12.5 million total. "That's insulting," she said flatly. "That's not even close to half our marital assets." "I know. I told them exactly that. But it shows they're scared. They're trying to lowball you, hoping you'll take quick money and go away, which means we're winning." "What did you tell them?" "I told them we'll see them in court, that we're not interested in settlement offers until they come to the table with a realistic assessment of marital assets and a fair division proposal. And I reminded them that every day this drags on, more business is being lost due to the frozen accounts." "How did they respond?" Femi's lawyer got very quiet. Then he asked if there was any way we could at least unfreeze enough funds for Femi to meet his immediate business obligations. I told him that's what court hearings are for. If Femi wants to argue that some funds should be released for legitimate business expenses, he can make that argument to a judge. Ngozi smiled despite herself. "You're enjoying this." "I'm enjoying seeing justice being served," BC corrected. "And yes, maybe I'm enjoying watching an arrogant man who thought he could discard his wife like trash, learning that actions have consequences. Sue me." After hanging up with BC, Ngozi ordered room service and sat by the window watching the Lagos sunset. Her phone continued to buzz with messages, some supportive, some critical, some just seeking gossip. She ignored most of them, but at 8 p.m. she received a message that made her blood run cold. It was from an unknown number, and it contained a single photo. The photo showed the entrance to the hotel where she was staying. Someone had been watching her. Someone knew where she was. The message that followed read, "You've made a lot of enemies, Ngozi. Be careful. Accidents happen." Her hand shook as she immediately called BC. "Someone just sent me a threat," she said without preamble. "They know where I'm staying. They sent me a photo of the hotel entrance." "Forward it to me right now," BC commanded. "And call hotel security. Tell them you've received a credible threat and you need security posted outside your room. I'm calling the police. This is criminal intimidation, possibly stalking. Whoever sent this is going to regret it." Within 20 minutes, 2 hotel security guards were stationed outside Ngozi's suite. Within an hour, a police detective arrived to take her statement and examine the threatening message. Within 2 hours, BC had filed additional legal complaints and was working with the police to trace the phone number that had sent the threat. "This is getting serious," the detective said as he reviewed the photo. "Mrs. Williams, do you have somewhere else you can stay? A friend's house? A relative? Somewhere that isn't publicly searchable?" "She can stay with me," BC said immediately. "My flat has 24-hour security and nobody outside of close friends knows my address." And so, at 11 p.m. on what had already been the longest day of Ngozi's life, she found herself packing her few belongings again and moving to BC's secure apartment building in Ikoyi. As she lay in BC's guest room that night, unable to sleep, Ngozi realized that this was no longer just a divorce case or even a criminal investigation. This had become a war where the other side was desperate enough to threaten violence. But wars, she knew, were won by the side that refused to surrender. And after everything Femi and his family had put her through, after every humiliation and betrayal and dismissal, Ngozi had discovered something important about herself. She was done surrendering. She was done being afraid. and she was absolutely done letting anyone make her feel like she deserved less than everything she was entitled to. Tomorrow, the federal investigation would begin. Tomorrow, Femi would wake up to investigators at his door with warrants. Tomorrow, his world would burn a little more. And Ngozi would be there watching, not with joy, but with the cold satisfaction of a woman who had finally learned that sometimes the only way to get justice was to fight for it with everything you had, even if it meant burning everything down to do it. What do you think about that threatening message? Has Femi gone too far now? Like this video if you think Ngozi should press charges. Subscribe to Voice of Auntie Dora and turn on those notifications because you do not want to miss what happens next. Comment below. Would you be brave enough to fight back like Ngozi? Let's hear it. The federal investigators arrived at Femi's office at 7 a.m. sharp. Ngozi wasn't there to see it, but BC's contact at FERS called with the details. 6 agents, 3 warrant documents, and Femi's face draining of all color when they announced they were seizing all financial records for the past 7 years. By 9 a.m., the news was everywhere. Social media exploded with photos of investigators carrying boxes out of Femi Williams' office building. The hashtag #Justice for Ngozi trended #1 in Nigeria. By noon, the police called. They had traced the threatening message. It came from Kunle, Femi's younger brother, who was now facing criminal charges for intimidation and stalking. "He's been arrested," the detective informed Ngozi. "And he's already confessing that Femi told him to scare you into dropping the case. That's conspiracy to commit a crime. Your husband just made everything 10 times worse for himself." At 2 p.m., Ngozi sat in Lagos High Court as Justice Olayinka reviewed the evidence. The judge was a woman in her 60s with sharp eyes that missed nothing. "Mr. Williams," Justice Olayinka said, her voice cutting through the courtroom, "you humiliated your wife publicly, attempted to illegally evict her from her marital home, and then conspired to threaten her when she exercised her legal rights. Now I discover you've also been evading taxes for years?" Femi stood with his head down, his expensive suit rumpled, his lawyer looking defeated beside him. This court awards Mrs. Ngozi Williams the following: the marital home, 60% of all marital assets including the business holdings, full restitution of her contributions to the business valued at 12 million naira, and punitive damages of 5 million naira for emotional distress. Additionally, all legal fees will be paid by the respondent. Gasps echoed through the courtroom. Femi's mother wailed. Yetunde, sitting in the back row with her pregnant belly visible, started crying. "As for the criminal investigation," Justice Olayinka continued, "that will proceed separately. But I am recommending to the prosecutor that any plea agreement include full restitution of back taxes owed." 3 months later, Ngozi stood in her home, legally, undisputably hers now, watching movers bring in furniture for her new home office. She had restarted her financial consulting firm, and clients were already lining up. Women who had seen her story and found courage in it. Women who needed help navigating divorces, protecting their assets, fighting back. Her phone buzzed. A message from Omotola. "Just saw the news. Femi's business declared bankruptcy. Yetunde left him last week, moved back to her parents' house with Segun. Karma is beautiful." Ngozi smiled, not with bitterness, but with the peace of someone who had fought and won. She had lost a marriage but gained herself, lost a family that never valued her but found her own strength. She looked at her reflection in the window, older perhaps, but powerful, free, whole. They had tried to erase her. Instead, she had erased them. And she had done it legally, methodically, and without apology. If this story moved you, smash that like button. Subscribe to Voice of Auntie Dora for more powerful stories of women reclaiming their power. Comment below. What's the biggest lesson from Ngozi's story? Share this with every woman who needs to remember her worth. God bless you all.